I'm Maggie Ostara, and I am zooming in today from a little casita in Costa Rica. I did that for my last video as well, and probably the next one. I'm here for our neighbor gathering for the Ecovilla. It's called the Ecovilla San Mateo, of which I am a part, and it is coming more and more into form right now. So I'm happy to be here with you today. I want to talk about the Eclipse Cauldron. So the Eclipse Cauldron, I believe, was coined by Caroline Casey. It came to me through another friend. So the cauldron is the time around the eclipses. So eclipses come twice a year, eclipse season or eclipse cauldrons come twice a year. And inside each of those, there are two eclipses. There's always a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse because they're related to where the north node and the south node are. I'm not going to go into detail about that, but just know that that's how eclipses work. We just had a solar eclipse, which happens during a new moon, and it was a north node eclipse. And then we're about to have a lunar eclipse, which is happening during a full moon and is related to the south node. So we're in between those two right now. So I'm going to talk a little bit broadly about that. And I also want to share with you because people have asked me about what my position is about disclosure right now. So that's what we're going to get into on the other side of the introduction. What is an eclipse exactly, and why are they so important? Eclipses happen when one heavenly body either gets in the way of our view or casts a shadow. When we have a lunar eclipse, like we're about to have on March 3rd, shadow of the Earth move across the face of the full moon. And then when you have a solar eclipse, you have the moon move between our view here on Earth and the sun, and so it makes the sun go dark. And so it's a relationship between these different heavenly bodies, which is unusual. It is regular, it happens every year. It happens somewhat differently in different places in the zodiac and different places in the human design mandala, but they still happen every year. But eclipses are very powerful because they are unusual and they're known for revealing things that have been in the shadow. Because we go from the heavenly body, whether that's the sun or the moon, being all lit up, right? It's bright. And then something passes over it and it becomes dark, whether that's the shadow or the moon itself. And so we have a period of darkness. We go from complete brightness to darkness to lightness again. And that is considered the shadow. It's revealing the shadow. So things that we haven't seen before come into our awareness. What's normal, what's typical is disrupted during an eclipse, right? Light that we count on is dimmed and then it would come back, but it will be different every time it comes back. So it's no surprise that we are in this deep period of disclosure, that it would happen during an eclipse cauldron, during an eclipse season. Much is being revealed right now about our leaders, many who have been on the world stage in politics and technology and even in personal growth and spirituality. And I know that this has been and will continue to be deeply distressing for many of us. I released a video just a few days ago that offered support for you around navigating change, right? Navigating difficult truths or inconvenient truths, things that we don't want to pay attention to, things that we would rather not know, but we absolutely need to know. And the reason I'm recommending it here is that I offered a number of tools that you can use to partner with your nervous system so that you can be more relaxed, more regulated, and more resourced as you are navigating seeing what is now being revealed. Because when we fall into really strong emotions, our perception gets distorted and our ability to discern is really diminished. So I encourage you, if you've been feeling, really anxious, overwhelmed, upset, distressed, devastated, I've been hearing this kind of thing, right? Or angry, outraged, desire for revenge, all of those things. If that's been coming up for you, and all of that is totally understandable that you could be feeling that way. And you just don't want to wallow in it. You don't want to get in it and fuel it, because when you do, you become less able to actually perceive things as they actually are, because all of those emotions create a lot of hormones and they distort your perception. Okay, so that's that video. I want to share a bit about my position on all of this because some people have access. So, first of all, I'm 100% in alignment with all information being shared openly. I think we need to know. I think that there is a great infection that is deep inside our culture and deep inside our society. And that infection is now bursting forth like the most noxious boil, bringing pus to the surface that we've ever seen. And in order for us to heal, we have to heal from the bottom. If you've ever had a boil, I've had a few boils, you can't just let the top of it heal over because it'll still be infected inside. We have to open it up, bring all of that pus out, and even scrape it on the bottom and let it heal from deep within. So, in order for that to happen, I think all information needs to be out and it needs to be openly shared. And we need to be wise and discerning as we engage with new disclosures, as we would with anything else, right? We don't want to throw out our ability to be discerning such an incredibly rich amount of information that's being shared. So I just want to emphasize also that I said in this last video is that it's important for us to not assume that all of the information is accurate or inaccurate, right? Either pole, because I don't think either of those is accurate. I think that we're somewhere in between. There's a tendency among some people to want to dismiss it and say, oh no, this couldn't possibly be true, or this couldn't be possibly be true about this person, right? Your favorite person. Or there's a tendency to want to believe all of it, just to say this has all been hidden. It must all be true. But that's probably not accurate either. Okay. So we want to be able to bolster ourselves so that we can be discerning. Okay. Then I'm 100% opposed to physical and psychological abuse of anyone, and especially of children and especially of girls. Girls are the most vulnerable population on the planet, and they have been for many millennia. They have been manipulated, they've been coerced, they've been trafficked. Okay. And what we're seeing now in the files is simply extreme examples of an attitude towards girls that is common and often considered normal and culturally sanctioned. It might not be that extreme, but there are a lot of things that people think are just okay, you know? And so kidnapping and sex trafficking of girls has been going on for a very long time. Girls and young women, for example, especially from indigenous nations in the United States, are routinely captured and disappeared. Okay, I see pictures of them on Facebook because their people are trying to find them. And it just doesn't make it into the news because they're indigenous and they're not white. And the news doesn't cover people like that. But it's been happening. It's never stopped. And then, of course, African and African American women, right, were abused and killed legally under slavery. Anything could be done to them. And that was only ended 160 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. And then it didn't really end then anyway, because there was segregation, there was still massive racism. And there's still a lot of abuse of all women of color. And it just doesn't get the same attention because they're women of color. And now we're seeing pictures of this happening to little white girls. And for many people, it's like little girls who look like their daughters. And that is so disturbing that people can't handle it. So I think it's really important in this moment for us to be honest with ourselves, right? So we can be clear-eyed as we review the information. Again, I'm not saying you shouldn't be upset. Of course you could be, it's understandable. But to also just realize, open out and get a bigger perspective and just see how much danger girls have been in forever, pretty much. So I was watching a video from Heather Cox Richardson, who is a historian. She's an American historian. She's a really brilliant scholar, actually. I don't agree with all how she looks at things, but she is an incredible scholar and a great historian, and she's been doing a wonderful service by reporting on political events really since 2016. She started Letters of an American. And she was saying in when she's been looking at the files, and she says it appears to be a vast criminal network that's been operating behind the scenes for a very long time. Yes. So again, the implications of this are going to rock and transform our lives and our world for years to come. Now, I've been aware of theories about this, and you probably have heard about theories about this for a long time, decades. But I was not really open to recognizing it because it was too dark and too evil. And honestly, I didn't know what to do with the information. And so I chose not to investigate and believe and go down that rabbit hole. It wasn't until the pandemic happened and the aftermath of the pandemic and how the pandemic was handled that I became more open and more curious. And then when I started to look, I was like, oh gosh, I know it's hard to imagine that the pandemic was planned or that the vast amounts of wealth that were created during the pandemic, primarily through vaccines, was planned. Like, that's hard. That's hard to take in. And I really want the truth to be revealed. That's my main thing. I want the truth to come out. I don't really know what's true. I'm pretty curious and open, and I really want to know now that more and more disclosures are happening so that we can observe and witness and then decide what kind of inspired action, meaning action from spirit, that we want to take. So my approach has been to observe and witness, right? And to be informed to the extent that I can without getting entangled in the conflict energy. So the last thing I want to say about this, and if you've been following me for a while, you've heard me talk about this multiple times, is I do not myself or recommend that you or anyone engage with conflict energy. This is simply the old paradigm trying to hold on. Even when you feel like you're fighting, fight the powers that be, the energy of outrage, of anger, of revenge, right? Of that really judgmental justice, right? Then you're just feeding the old machine and you're just thinking you're on the right side. And what we need to do to really have this be a moment in which new earth can be birthed and our response to what's happening is by being able to be clear eyed and present and in our center as we approach and work with what's being revealed so that we're not feeding that energetic machine, which is a big part of what's been oppressive to us. And more will be revealed about that in the months to come. So if you feel called to participate, and I encourage you to participate in any way that your heart says, right? Just to do it really from the energy of your heart and the attitude of spiritual qualities, of compassion, of care, of love, really, right? Of unity consciousness. Because unity consciousness would say, we are connected to the people who have done these things. We're all part of a vast consciousness that is expressing itself in different ways. And as soon as we say, oh, no, but not that, then we're in separation. So part of what we need to do is recognize that we actually are connected in some way to all of this evil and all of this darkness so that we can actually heal at the deepest. And I know that's not easy. And I know that revenge can feel really sweet. And this is big work. It's big, big spiritual work. So back to the eclipses. Like I said, I don't think it's a coincidence that the disclosures are ramping up while we're here, right in the eclipse cauldron, right? And all of the astrological alignments have been pointing in this direction of truth being revealed, truth coming out. And that's been true for quite some time. And this is something that we're experiencing collectively and also personally. Both of these eclipses were in gates in the human design mandala in collective circuitry. So they're influencing the collective and our relationship to the collective. So the solar eclipse that we just had on the 19th highlighted the sensing circuit, right-brained energy, and the lunar eclipse on the 3rd also highlights the sensing circuit, which is right-brained energy. So we have a really powerful message coming here with this whole eclipse cauldron about the significance of right brain ways of knowing, which are creative, they're expansive, they're embodied, and they're creative. Okay, they're not logical, they're not rational, they're not analytical or linear, not at all. So the eclipses are highlighting the ways perhaps that you have stifled or ignored or rejected your creativity, your body, or your connection to spirit. And these kind of things go many, many layers. And so even if you think I've already looked at that or dealt with it, the eclipses are taking us deeper and deeper and deeper inside. This is a very potent theme to be investigating during this eclipse cauldron. So take a look at how you've been conditioned or trained yourself to prioritize your mind over your body, logic and reason over your creativity, and material reality over spirit. This is what Western cultures does. These are bedrocks of Western culture. So if you grew up in a Western influenced culture, you probably have this, right? And so it's been something we've all experienced, right? But then we experience it individually. I want to just give a really short example from my own life, which is when I was a little kid, I was highly intuitive and I was also really good at math. So I had a pretty full on right brain and a pretty full on left brain. It's one of the gifts that I've been given in this life. And the adults around me were really uncomfortable at my intuition because I could know things about what was going on that they didn't really want me to know about. You know, not so much like that they were doing evil behind my back, but it was more because they didn't want me as a young child to be burdened with their struggles, which I actually understand as a parent, but it led me to suppress and shut down my intuition. Whereas I was really good at math, right? And what you learn, you have school about math, right? You have classes in school that teach you math. It's a culturally sanctioned thing to be good at. And so I got really good at math. I actually won this senior math award in my high school because of the way that I was brought up. That seemed like the obvious path. And it wasn't until I was in my 40s that I started to really reclaim my intuition and my creativity. And I've been doing that ever since. Many people who I've worked with in my programs and in our Sovereign Sisterhood, which is our supportive ecosystem for midlife women awakening to their spiritual path, have realized through exploring their human design in particular how much they've been conditioned into that really left brain dominance, right? To the exclusion of ways of knowing that might actually be more innate to them. Interesting, right? So we don't want to get rid of our left brain intelligence, but we don't want it to be dominant. We want it to be balanced with our right brain intelligence. I mean, we were given both for a reason. And then we also have all this intuition as well. So we want to be able to honor all of our faculties. These are all superpowers. But when we let that left brain dominance take hold, we lose large parts of ourselves. So this is another step in our ongoing process of evolution and change that we're all experiencing right now. We've been shedding and dismantling and releasing for months now, right? And we're getting deeper and deeper inside. And the eclipses are taking us down yet another level. They've gone in and they're like, okay, let's bring up this part of the shadow that you might not be aware of. So you may be seeing shadow in yourself. You're certainly experiencing shadow from other people. And it's shadow because it's things we haven't been aware of, right? That's why it's shadow. I also use this term as a stand-in for power over when we manipulate people and situations for personal gain, which we actually do, most of us, far more than we realize. It's kind of how we were taught to get ahead in life, right? But this is also being revealed to us and how detrimental that is. So the Neptune and Saturn conjunction that was exact just a few days ago on the 20th. It's still operational, certainly until mid-April, but for, really years to come. And so this is really creation energy. So we've been having dissolving, dismantling, releasing energy, and now we've got this really powerful creation energy because here they are on that 0 degree of Aries, 44 minutes. It's the creator degree. And so these two sky gods are here starting new seed points, new trajectories of possibilities that we've never seen before. And that can also help to really balance out that releasing because you might have been feeling a little bit like in this doing both of these at the same time, it can create some instability or some confusion or some overwhelm because you're kind of looking at, well, which way should I be looking? It could feel like a polarity bounce between one polarity or another. Right. But when you go deeper inside yourself, you get into that core, into your own soul fire at the center of your being, you'll find a place where you'll feel stable and calm and have clear vision and be able to navigate those different things that you're attending to in a more fluid and flexible way. And if you have been putting more attention on the dissolution and the disclosure, the things that are being seen, it's really important to also focus on the new and the potential and the possibility. Because if you focus too much on the releasing and the disclosure and anything, you're just going to get depressed. You're going to be depressed. You're going to be sad. You're going to lose energy. And it is important to feel the grief and to feel the sadness, but not to wallow in it, right? Let it come up, process it, let it go. Keep challenging yourself instead to give your attention and your energy to what it is that you want to create, what you want to see coming into the world. I mean, this is something we always recommend, right? But it's particularly important because the fire horse is a very, very fast moving energy. And now all of the outer planets, except for Uranus, who in April will complete his movement into Gemini, all of the outer planets have moved into signs of air and fire. So we're going to have speed and intensity behind whatever it is that we are focusing on. And this presents an enormous opportunity for spiritual growth, right? If you choose to focus, for example, on a world where children are safe, where they're well provided for, where they're able to explore the living world, right? And you direct energy towards that, you're going to help bring that into form. But if you keep focusing on a world where girls are trafficked and killed at the will of elites, you're giving your energy to that, even though you feel like you're fighting it, or you potentially are. I think if you can really witness, right? But just notice what happens. And this is a high spiritual practice. It's a bodhisattva practice to actually look at evil in the world, right? And maintain your center. So even if you do that, even if you do that bodhisattva practice, make sure you're giving energy to the new that you want to bring in. I agree that the disclosures need to be addressed, absolutely, but also how we do it matters, right? Because the energy of the old paradigm, power over, revenge, violence, eye for an eye, right? Manipulation, coercion, power by force, right? Or new paradigm, a power shared and rotated based in witnessing, observation, discernment, compassion, care, soul qualities. And I recognize the pull of the old paradigm, which has been greatly stimulated, right, by the release of some of the files. Apparently, there's even more. And I know I've been working with my own energy related to justice. I've been an advocate for justice my entire life. But I've been really working to free my commitment to justice from anger and from revenge. And I encourage you to do the same, even if the revenge feels really sweet, because it's not, it's actually poison. It's poison to you and it's poison to our collective. So we are in a tricky and vital dance, right? We find ourselves in the midst of so much complexity, so much challenge, so much energy, and so much potential. So we have the potential to become the people through which New Earth manifests right here, right in our own lifetimes, right in our hands. We can be a model for what's possible, right? The reason I'm here at Ecovilla San Mateo is that we are becoming a model for what's possible. I want to give my energy to that, right? I was just in the midst of children running around, and it's just beautiful. It is possible, and there are pockets where this is happening. There are islands of coherence in the sea of chaos that are really blossoming. So take a look around and see if you find something that you feel you can really pour your energy into. And if you would like some more support navigating this challenging time, I invite you to take this really fun quiz that I created. It's called What's Your Midlife Awakening Archetype? So it's geared for women, but anybody can take it. And it's all about navigating the path of awakening, both for women at midlife when there's a lot of awakening that generally happens, but also inside of this bigger cauldron of change that we're all in. And your results will help to show you where you are on that path of awakening, what your best growth edges are, and also what your best next steps are. And it's a fun way, to work with a topic that otherwise might feel kind of heavy. So as we become, stronger, more resilient, and more flexible, we can have better flow, right? Between moving, between witnessing and acting, between letting go and creating, between observing and engaging, right? We can have more ability to change our state and not get so locked in one or the other. And when I'm back from Costa Rica in March, I'm going to create some more supports for you for navigating change during this really potent time. So stay tuned for that. All right. Many blessings. Much love. Bye for now.